Being known as the go-getter, the ambitious one, the one making things happen, the entrepreneur in your group of friends can feel so good until it doesn't. So when you start doing your own thing and people start noticing it and they start seeing that you're taking these risks that most people aren't taking, you're learning things, you're becoming good at something, you're taking the time to take control of your life and somehow like you're making it happen. People start to see you differently, right? They start to see you as the go-to person for that particular thing. So you're starting to build this reputation around yourself that you're good at something, that you're making things happen, that you've got a bit of a different mindset, that you are the shining light that can maybe help illuminate other people's dreams because you have some kind of answers now. You've been in the game, you're in the trenches. And when people start seeing you like that, you can feel really good about it, right? You love that people are able to acknowledge what you're doing. Not that you're doing it for the acknowledgement or the applause, but as human beings, let's be honest, it feels good when someone acknowledges you and says, you're doing a good job, right? You can't dispute that. It feels good. But what tends to happen after a short period of time when people start seeing you like that is that they tend to lean towards you to help them to go down the same path or to give them advice on certain things because you're now the go-to person for how to live a different kind of life. And maybe you do have new answers. Maybe you know certain things that they don't. Maybe you've learned a couple of tricks that you can share with them. And at first, you're happy to help, you know? You've got a couple of people that come to you and they're like, can you help me with this thing? I'm trying to do something similar to what you're doing. And you're like, yeah, cool, I'm happy to help. And then slowly over time, this starts becoming more frequent. People start coming to you more. They start wanting to meet up a lot more and talk about this stuff. But then it gets to a certain point where you feel like you might not have the capacity required to do this. Maybe you've been in the game for a bit longer now and the demands on your time are increasing. Maybe what you need to get done, your to-do list is increasing. You're starting to feel a bit overwhelmed about everything. You wake up and you're like, whoa, like my day is loaded. How am I going to get all this stuff done? And then you get a message or a phone call from a friend and they're like, oh, hey, can you meet up later? Can you meet up tomorrow? I want to ask you a few things. And immediately you feel like, I can't do this. I don't have time for this. You're thinking, I want to help you, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if I've got the capacity, but I don't want to say no. So you don't want to say no to them because you don't want them thinking that you no longer care about them or that you've changed, right? That because you're doing all this stuff, you know, you're different to them now, and you don't want them thinking that you don't care anymore. So you end up saying yes. And then by saying yes, you then have to pause some other things that you were doing that then are now going to pile up to the next day. So now you're feeling a bit more overwhelmed about everything, right? And then this cycle continues. And then you get to the point where you feel almost resentful at the fact that people keep asking you to help them with things. And you can easily get into that space if you leave this whole thing unchecked. I think it's wonderful that people see you as, you know, someone that understands things in a certain area that they want to learn from. That's great. It shows that you've been growing. It shows that what you're doing is working. But I think when that turns into something that you begin to resent because you don't know how to say no, then it becomes a problem. Then it starts to strain your friendships. Then you start getting this awkward feeling and you start not wanting to answer phone calls. And that's not a good space to be in at all. But you only end up getting there when there's a lack of boundaries. And I think this is something that most entrepreneurs end up having to learn at some point, because the demands on your time are already so high. You're not sitting around doing nothing. I think sometimes people feel that now that you have control over your time, you know, you've actually got lots of time on your hands because you're not going to a 9 to 5 maybe, or, you know, it's a different kind of scenario. But that's not actually the case. The case is that you're probably working more than you ever did when you were at a 9 to 5 or when you didn't have your own business, especially if you're doing both at once. If you're working a 9 to 5 and trying to get your business off the ground, now it's like You know, where's the time, right? But I think people automatically think you're your own boss, you've got your own thing going on, you must have more time. And at the beginning, that's so far from the truth, it's funny, right? More time where? You wish you had more time. You actually thought yourself that you'd have more time when you're doing your own thing. But as we know, that is not the case, right? Most of the time, that is definitely not the case. It's what we aspire to and it's what we're building to. But at the beginning, you're working your damn ass off because you're trying to get this thing off the ground. You're trying to make sure that you can pay yourself that month, that you can pay your employees that month. You're trying to make sure that this thing actually works. And with that kind of lifestyle, you do naturally end up working more at some stage, right? So we can all agree on that. But if you're in that situation where, because of who you're now perceived to be in the friendship group, a lot more people are leaning on you to help them elevate themselves, you almost feel like you have a responsibility, but at the same time, you do have a responsibility to yourself as well, right? So you can get in this tricky situation where you want to help them, but you don't really have the time right now. So you don't know what to do. You don't want to say no. And if you're a recovering people pleaser like me, you find it difficult to say no. But there are other alternatives. So this was definitely something I had to navigate at one point because I just felt like, whoa, like I can't fulfill all these requests. I can't help everybody right now. I'm trying to help myself. So I knew that I didn't just want to say flat out no, but I knew that, you know, maybe right now when someone's asking me to help them, maybe I don't have the time right now. Maybe I need to, I need to prioritize things. I need to plan things out. So I started looking for different ways of being able to satisfy both ends. So it's like a win. And through digging around and reading books, I found a few ways that you can actually create some boundaries without flat out having to say no. So if you're in this position where you feel like there's a lot of demands on your time from other people to help them with stuff, this is probably going to be helpful for you. So there are a few ways that you can do this. So instead of freaking out and saying, I don't have time, leave me alone, I can't help you right now. That's not what you want to say. You know it's not. So you keep that in your mind. You keep that to yourself. What you can say instead is something more like, you know what? I'd love to help you, but I can't help you tomorrow. I can help you next week, Thursday at 7:00. That's when I can help you. So you're not saying no. You're just saying yes, but not right now. So that's one way that you can do it. So you can look at your schedule and think, when does this actually fit into my calendar? When can I realistically do this without feeling like I've got the world on my shoulders, because you're already under pressure as it is. So that's one way. A second way is, I'd love to help you, but this isn't really my area, but I know someone that can help you. Or I saw this video online that has all the answers that you need. Or there's this book that you should probably read. It's going to explain it better than I ever could. So that's kind of like, I'd love to help, but I'm not the person. Here's the better material. A third way could be if they're asking to meet up, but you know that that's not really feasible for you. So it could be, I'd love to help you. I know you want to meet up. I can't really get that into my schedule, but I'm happy to do a phone call. I can do that tonight, but I can't meet you. So that's like, I'd love to help you, but I can't do it in the way that you're asking me to do it. Here's an alternative. So all of these ways, you're not flat out saying no, you're still helping them, but there are some conditions on it, right? Which is fine. So now you're no longer in a position where you feel overwhelmed and like there's extra demands on your time that you can't fulfill. You're now still helping them, still maybe pointing them in the right direction, still giving them the time, but in the way that makes sense to you. Just because someone wants something and they want it at a specific time doesn't mean they're going to get it at a specific time from you. And I'm sure if they were in the position you're in, they'd want that same consideration. So it is a tricky situation. It's about setting boundaries in a way that doesn't damage the friendship and relationship that you have. So next time someone says to you, oh, can you help me tomorrow with this thing? And you honestly don't have that time, or you can't mentally deal with it at that time, there are ways that you can deal with it without flat out saying no and, making things really awkward. I can't do it right now, but I can do it on so-and-so day. I want to help you, but I can't help you in the way that you want. I'm not the right person for this, but here's the material, that you can refer to. And in that kind of way, they get what they need, and you also maintain your sanity.